Paramatta is ultimate.
There's an ultimate reality?
Yeah, we can't say anything about it. By its very nature, it's beyond saying anything, because whatever one says is relative. One uses words, and words are always relative to things. The words are symbols. And we can talk about things like bottles and concrete and things like that, because we can point to the objects like this. And there's always the relationship of ourselves to that. When you get to Paramatta, there's no relativity. There's nothing you can point to.
So it's the conventional reality is then much more the conventions actually, what we use to refer to things.
Yes, but I mean we do get things like conventional truth. I mean in law, you must tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, you know. That's the idea. And there is conventional truth, there's no doubt about that. There's conventional truth in the world, it is truth is against lies. But it's got nothing to do with ultimate truth. This is just conventions. They're accepted conventions. We have conventions and we accept them. But when it comes down to what these conventions are and what is the basis of these conventions, all you can say is it's the acceptance of them. And that's really all it comes to. It even comes down to sensation. We see things, and we define things in our seeing, doing this or that. But when we come down to why do we define these things and make a distinction between them, it's really conventional. It's practical, of course. I mean, this post here, we distinguish that from that bottle there. Obviously it's got a practical use, you don't want to walk into this.
Or try to carry it away.
The idea of thinking of it as one thing too is also convention. These are all conventions that we've been brought up to, and they've gone in so deep that they're just in part of us, in part of the world, natural. And when we talk about a tree, what do we talk about? Every tree is different. All we can say there are certain characteristics that we call a tree. And this is conventional reality.
Is the Buddha sometimes talking about this and about the conventional reality and absolute?
Well, the thing is, he talked about conventional reality and he taught in terms of conventional reality. Because you can't talk about absolute reality or teach it. No way. Because of that, you can say that what the Buddha taught, none of what the Buddha taught is absolutely true. Because you can't teach absolute truth. No way. Chicken.
What property?
Reality, convention and reality are very important. And we are riddled with convention. One of the very important points of convention is symbols. It's full of symbols inside. They symbolize everything. It seems to be a trick of the mind, this. We can't handle too much information. Because of that, we group things into one symbol. We say it's that. I mean, that tape recorder, we look at that. You can't handle what it is altogether. It's very complex. So we group it into one thing called tape recorder, and that's simple. And we handle that as an object. We're constantly grouping things and making them into symbols. And then, I mean, you get things like political parties, which are the most complex things. Well, not only political, I mean other sorts of organisations, and you've got a name for them. And then we identify the name with either something good or something bad, and it disguises the complexity of the thing. And also it makes things untrue. Because when we talk about it as being good or bad, we're taking everything in that to us as either good or bad. And it's false. It's not like that. Because that convention is a very convenient thing to have, but it can also disguise the truth. It can prevent us seeing the truth of the matter. Again, I mean, if we talk about a person is something very complex. So we sort of say, oh, I don't like him, or I don't like that type, or something like that. But we're talking about something there that's changing the whole time, and very complicated. And it's very easy to get quite wrong ideas in that way. And when you look at the 5 khandhas, that's what we call a person. And that divides it down to 5. But each of those 5 is very complicated. And it's not, each of the 5 is not even static. They're all changing the whole time. So you've got an enormously complex changing, almost like a vortex or something, whirling around all the time. And then we identify that as an individual. And we always think of it just as one person, just one like that. And we should really try to realize how complex these things are.
So it's the citta that's different. So it's the citta that's different, but not the khandha, not the 5 khandha.
The chitta,
Really?
the original chitta. But the chitta, after all, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and ground, those are chitta, aspects of chitta. I always like to look on them as being like the waves on the ocean. The chitta, the original chitta, the real chitta, is like the ocean. Whereas the 5, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, just like waves on the surface. They're not separate from it, but they're not the same thing either. It's not a true simile, of course, for certain things. But it's about as near as you can get.
I had a question sort of along that line. First of all, Pañña says to separate the mind from the body. And then at a certain point, the mind, it's like the mind merges with the breath, or the heart merges with the breath when you're meditating. Now is that, it's more of a merging with the knowing of the breath?
No, these are experiences talking about.
It's just a way of saying something.
Yeah, you mustn't think of this in any external, literal sense. It's the experience. You can, for instance, you can get the breathing, and the breathing starts off here. Later on, you can get the experience as though it's down here.
Yeah, I know. I've felt that.
These are experiences.
And I'm just wondering, and the whole idea about non-duality, if that's what's going on, or if it's just some kind of a...
No, you mustn't think in any material way. You must realize the mind is what matters here. And the mind can twist things around like in any way. And when you think of this point as being the place where breathing is taking place, okay, well, as far as the mind's concerned, it is. What's physically happening doesn't matter. You mustn't miss.
I guess I'm trying to make a leap over to why that experience is happening, or what it has to do with the mind and the breath being different.
Don't worry about that. Come to that later when you got deep down.
So is this idea of non-duality, is that sort of like that the ocean and the waves are non-dual, but they're still, we see them as separate? Is that sort of the idea?
Duality, right. At that point, anyway, I mean, the only non-duality that comes is when a chitta goes down there and it's just knowing. There's ekavata, which is the just one. because there's no object known, but there's just a state of knowing there. But that has to be experienced. Can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to sit?
That's how I felt.
No,
If
yeah, that's all right.
Thank you.
this place of knowing, or just knowing,
Yes.
is it different from just samadhi, or is it?
In samadhi, there are 1,001 different experiences. It's full of all sorts of odd things. Sometimes a person feels that they are 100 feet tall, very solid, made of rock.
Leaning over.
Possibly leaning over, yes.
Yeah, falling to
At other times, they can feel as though they're sort of thick and vast. Like that. These are just experiences.
But then, what is then? How could one describe then samadhi? Is it just normally it's concentration?
Samadhi is a state of mind. There are certain factors of mind which make up samadhi. One is it's a state of where the mind is absorbed, comes and is absorbed in the object, and all the factors of mind come together. They talk about it as romkan, which really means integrated. Mind becomes integrated together like that. And when it's like that, it becomes very strong. And all sorts of odd experiences can come up. Also in samadhi there's 3 distinct levels. There's the kanika level, which is momentary. You just get the taste of it for a short while, just a few quarter of a minute, a few seconds maybe, and it just disappears like that. That's kanika samadhi, that's the sort of momentary thing. Second is upachara samadhi. Upachara samadhi is where all sorts of things can happen. You see nimittas, you know what a nimitta is, image. You see nimittas, you maybe hear sounds, psychic things can happen, you may know the future, things at a distance, there's all sorts of things can happen there, but also frightening things can come up. And this is an area which a person should be careful of. Then there's the apana level, and that's the one that one should try and attain, should get to. The apana level is a level where the chitta drops to the heart. And it's just one there. Body disappears, breathing stops, whole lot goes, and there's just that one left. And that is a state of complete happiness, complete contentment.
So then there's no object in there anymore, or?
No object. Just the one. But again, this has to be experienced. One can't really sort of reason about it.
No, I'm not trying to reason about it. Just trying to get certain things
but one can say
together.
One can say really that if you could hold the mind from thinking about all sorts of things and wandering about, just hold it still. For long enough, you would automatically drop into that state of samadhi. Quite automatically. It's because the kilesas are afraid of it, that immediately it starts going in that direction, it jumps up, I don't know what's happening, I don't know, it gets all broken up. It's kilesas the whole time that are disturbing it. They're disturbing the mind, and not allowing it to settle down there. It's like those waves again, it's the wind that blows the waves up. And the winds of change, and the kilesas, you can say, they produce the waves there. If the wind stops, the waves calm down, and then it just goes down to the ocean.
When one experiences that, why does, except of the happiness feeling, why does one try to experience it? Does it eradicate any kilesas, or is it...
No, it doesn't eradicate kilesas, but the kilesas are set to rest.
Yes.
As they say, like a muddy pond of water. If it remains still long enough, the mud will settle to the bottom. It becomes clear. And the reason why one should get to this state is two reasons. First of all, to have a refuge. One knows if one can get to that state, that in that state nothing can go wrong. Completely in that state. Secondly, when you're doing a lot of work on wisdom, if one gets tired, one can go back into that state and get rest very quickly, recover very quickly. In fact, you can use it for rest anytime you want. This is the main use of it. Also, when you go into that state and you come out, at least partially, then you can use wisdom very well too, because in that state there's always a strong aftertaste to it. There's a state of calm now, a state where the mind is completely wielding. It's no longer stubborn or difficult. And you can then turn it to doing work, to investigate, like investigating the body. And then it's seen with wisdom easier. No difficulty. Wisdom just penetrates very well. It's not like normally where one has to think intellectually and sort of reason about it, and the mind sort of doesn't want to do it, and the kilesas come up all the time suggesting other things. It's not like that. It's free from all that. It's getting very easy. Very valuable state, a person who can get there, but it's not easy. There's plenty of barriers to it.
But it sounds like if you once got there, that it's easier to get there again. Is that? Sounds a bit like you can just go there for refuge for jump.
I suppose it probably is easier to get there again. But Ajahn gave his experience where he started off before he met Pañña. He wanted to learn how to do samadhi. So he asked his Upachaya, his teacher, the abbot of the wat, and he said, do Buddha, keep Buddha. So he did this, and he did it for quite a while, and then he dropped into samadhi. And when he came out, he knew that was right, and then he said, I must do that now. Afterwards he couldn't do it. He tried, he couldn't do it until he got really angry. He still couldn't do it. They said it was a year. And then he decided, I'm just going to go on doing Buddha regardless of whether I get there or not. So he did that, and again he got there. Then he realized what the fault was. He was thinking all the time of the result instead of doing the cause, making the cause to get that result. And because of that, you can see that it's not always too easy. Also, I mean, having got there, the kilesas was stirred up, and they're only too ready to say, all right, we're getting there now,
Yeah. It's very subtle sometimes. You don't think you're thinking about it, but it's
samadhi is very valuable, there's no doubt about it. It's valuable. Yeah. One can get there. It's not easy.
What is then, as my understanding goes, jhana is also samadhi. But there are 8 different jhanas.
The different jhanas are different levels. Really, you can say the first 4 jhanas are where the state of the jhana is getting more and more subtle. The last 4 jhanas, where the objects are becoming more and more subtle. But the difference between jhana and samadhi, I don't know enough about it. I don't like talking very much about it. Ajahn also doesn't seem to like talking much about jhana. He says that it's one of those subjects which you can only really talk about with somebody who's actually experienced it and who knows it. To talk with anybody else isn't helpful. Generally, Ajahn, if somebody asks him a question on jhana, he just quotes what it says in the book. And I'm not sure it's very helpful.
Yes, because I remember that I came here for quite a long time, and she teaches the jhana. So it made me curious what the difference is, because I think I read in Forest Dhamma somewhere I saw Ajahn statement that there is samadhi, but one can easily slip from that state to one of the jhanic states. So then it should, then something formed in my mind, then it's just something different from the jhana.
Ajahn said, if a person has a capacity to practice jhana, then that's the way they should go. Somebody who is not should develop samadhi. And they shouldn't try to get jhana. Because it would be just a waste of time. In fact, the jhana is not essential. But for a person who's got that faculty, it's extremely valuable.
Valuable.
It's extremely valuable.
But you said it's not important.
It's not essential for samadhi, for developing the wisdom going on in the practice. But for somebody who has a capacity of jhana, yes, they must go that way. For somebody who hasn't, they should use just samadhi and develop that until they've got to the point where they can hold the mind on a subject of wisdom, something to fix wisdom onto, like the body contemplation. When one can hold one's mind on the body like that, then one should go into contemplation there. In the biography of Ajahn Mun, it says how he developed samadhi to begin with, and then he kind of came to the point where he was getting nimitta coming up all the time. Mostly sort of scenery and bits of this and bits of that coming up all the time. He did this for about 3 months apparently. And he then sort of reviewed it and he thought, well, doing this all the time, I don't see that I've got any gain from it. So he then decided, from that moment on he turned. He said, I'm going to do body contemplation. And he turned to doing the body, contemplating the body. And from then on he started to gain. Because to develop samadhi up to the point where one can get the mind well concentrated and keep the kilesas at bay, that's valuable. To go much further than that gets less and less valuable. The thing that's necessary is to use the samadhi, use what one has got in the samadhi to develop wisdom. Wisdom is the thing that matters all the time. In fact, anybody who has the capacity to really keep their mind on what they're doing, if they can develop the wisdom, that's the way to do it straight away. Not many people can. And it's usually advisable to have in samadhi experience as well. It can be valuable later on if one gets exhausted in the investigation. Also, if one has samadhi, there are things which normally would be unacceptable in wisdom, because the kilesas are too much against that idea. With samadhi, because the kilesas are pacified, they're sort of laid at rest, that objection, that block isn't there. So the samadhi can help one to make it much easier for the Pañña.
I would think just having a place that's very happy that you go to would help a lot. You know, when you're thinking of giving up all these pleasures.
That's important too, because I mean samadhi is very pleasant, and that can help to make it much easier. At the time of the Buddha, there was a time when bhikkhus were doing body concentration, and many of them committed suicide. And So he then told them to practice anapanasati, breathing practice.
I think Ajahn John used to tell us quite a difference between Chan and Buddhist. But he doesn't say samadhi. He said Buddhist samadhi. He said Buddhism samadhi. Samadhi in Buddhism means that even the Chan, whether Chan or not, the concentration with sati pañña within. Whereas the Chan is just, it seems that sometimes there's no mindfulness or pañña at all. She's just lost in that state of samadhi with emptiness. There used to be several monks who used, even today in Bangkok or something like that. He sometimes, and everybody else thinks that he's gone into Nirod Samabhat. But in fact, when I read, he said about the question and answer to him, he said he's some kind of when he's going to go into Samabhat, into jhana, he would go to his colleagues' kuti instead of his own, and then he will be close in there. Yeah. But with the not really completely. Outside will see him, but he will sit there, and he sit there, and he would last into his meditation, concentration for 3 months. But he has to determine how long he's going to be in, a month or 2 months or 3 months. Yeah. He said, but don't ask me where I am when I was in there. He just gone when he's go down to samadhi, and then he just gone, and then as soon as he feels conscious again, it's already 1 or 2 or 3 months. He said he himself didn't even know, but his colleague would tell, and he could notice only by his hair getting longer. Yeah. So I thought that it must be just only a Chan.
I can't make any comment on it.
or ผมลูกฟักที่ท่านอาจารย์ Fun always says how do you say in English ผมลูกฟัก instead of unconscious jhana. He said it's a state between the rupa jhana and the rupa jhana. Yeah. There will be a state where there's no consciousness at all. And he said that's why we have to be very careful when jumping from rupa jhana to arupa jhana, or else it will be dropped into that. From rupa fak.
I couldn't say much.
He said it's just like a wood, a dead wood.
Yeah.
Sitting like a dead wood.
So I mean, jhana is very coarsely defined as the factors of jhana. Vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata. Vitakka and vichara is used in samadhi. Vitakka is like buddha, it's keeping applying your mind to the thing one's concentrating on. Vichara is when it becomes absorbed in that and it becomes interested, it becomes fixed in that and it doesn't wander. Piti is when interest comes up in that. Sukha is when it becomes pleasant, the concentration becomes stronger. And ekaggata would be really, you can say it's dropping down to a half there. But whether you can call that jhana, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think there's another factor involved here, which is separate from you. And this will depend on the individual character.
But what is the value of the jhanas? Because you said they are valuable if you can do it.
If it's in the person's character to do it, it will come up automatically in them.
Yes.
And they'll very quickly be able to practice that jhana. And then they must use that method.
In order to concentrate or...
Yeah. So I mean, it's just if a person, but very few people do have this faculty. There are a few, but not many. And it's just if they've got that faculty, then they can use that straight away, and they can get all sorts of results very quickly. But they need a teacher. Otherwise they go playing about.
That's true.
But it would be basically the same value as samadhi has, to be able to investigate with clarity.
In terms of being able to investigate, if the person has the jhana strongly there, go far quicker, far quicker. Develop far quicker.
And also,
so few people have got this.
Long time coming.
How come
it
all
really
the
depends
Western...
on, when there's a teacher who teaches them, there are quite a few people who can do it.
Yeah. I mean, in the jhana, that's often the basis of psychic powers too. A lot of psychic powers in that world, and those again are a danger. Because psychic powers, they're sticky. It's like a treacle. Stuck with it, comes off from your fingers. You can't get rid of it. And they get kilesa. After all, I mean, you think, supposing you have psychic powers, you know the future and all sorts of things. It's a wonderful plaything for kilesa.
Yeah. We know about that.
And then what happens is, because the kilesas get involved, it all goes wrong. Instead of being true, it goes all false. That always happens. But I would say don't worry about the jhana. Well, the person who can practice jhana, who knows jhana, and they have to go to a teacher and be taught specially.
It's usually those of not Buddhist samadhi, I mean jhana. Usually all those rishis and the hermits.
Yeah, it can come from that, but the thing is that people, when they're Buddhist, if they're born in Thailand, they're Buddhist, and if they have the faculty of jhana, they can be used. But they must find a teacher.
And John said that Chan is just a monkey samadhi or a squirrel samadhi. It's nonsense at all. I mean, it's not worth trying to.
Well, it
not as
must
good
be more
as
than that, because the Buddha said that jhana leads to nibbana. Jhana is very important, he said. But I would agree entirely in the sense that if it's uncontrolled, if it's not directed properly, I think that's so.
It can be misled.
Yes, very easy. Yes. Because I mean, it's like some people, they know all sorts of things, they know all sorts of psychic things. What use is it to? If it's uncontrolled, it's no use. In fact, it can lead them astray very easily.
Well, it's the same with samadhi. I mean, this whole thing about concentration being dangerous.
That's enough dangerous stuff.
You're just sitting there in bliss and not, investigating.
Yeah, although there's not the same faculties that come up. It's not the same thing really. But I don't know much about jhana really. I'm certainly not skilled in it.
Because the third kind of samadhi you talked sounds like a very deep concentration as well.
It is,
the jhanas are very deep concentration as
well. I don't think it is technically a jhana state, but the difference there, you'd have to get somebody who's got a lot of experience to know what they're talking about there. Not many people do. I mean, I think Ajahn probably knows, but he doesn't like talking about things. He says, what's the use? If somebody hasn't got the experience, they're just using words and it doesn't mean anything. It's only somebody who's actually had some of these experiences that he can point out and say, oh, this means this and that means that. And now you should do this or do that, you see. If it's like that, yes, maybe that's not really. But for just speculating is not much use. The main thing is really that great deal of kilesas. And our task is to use whatever method we can to get rid of them. As Ajahn says, we have to scramble up. It's not always an orderly thing. One develops samadhi, one develops wisdom. But it isn't always that the samadhi comes nice and neatly in front first, and then the wisdom comes like this. It doesn't work always like that. You have to develop whatever's available at the time, whatever the problems are, to deal with it, whatever's available.
One question which always puzzles me is how much samadhi I developed before I developed the wisdom. Or, how many years I was trying to get samadhi to find out maybe I can't get it.
That's not the way. No, that's not the way.
Yeah.
You've got to develop sila, samadhi and wisdom and pañña. All three, the whole time.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the samadhi is the one to concentrate on, to begin with. But it doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't use any wisdom.
No.
Definitely. And it's a good practice that when you do a period of practicing samadhi, when you come out of that, you feel you've done enough. When you come out, turn and do a bit of investigation. Develop the wisdom. Investigating the body. Okay. This is good training. Because if you do that as training, then you don't fall into the trap of getting addicted to samadhi. Because when samadhi comes, if one gets into samadhi and one learns how to get there easily, it's very pleasant. Because that one wants to do samadhi the whole time. One's not interested in developing wisdom because that's hard work. It's like how it's difficult to get up in the morning when it's cold. One doesn't want to. One much prefers to sort of go to sleep there. It's a bit like that with samadhi. So if one develops the habit of doing some practice on wisdom after the samadhi, then this can become an ingrained habit. When one finishes the samadhi practice, then one develops some wisdom. Later on, when the samadhi becomes better, one becomes more skilled, one can go on doing the same thing, and it really brings results. And there isn't a tendency to get caught in the pleasantness of samadhi.
It's the question is arises by looking at the practice. When I try to develop samadhi, and say I sit now and try to develop samadhi, and after that I would investigate. Wouldn't I break the chain of my samadhi, and so get actually less likely into a deeper state of samadhi? No.
You wouldn't do any harm there. The thing is, when one develops samadhi, one needs the parikamba, and the main attention one should put on is the attention to be mindful. And it's that mindfulness you want to carry over into wisdom. That's the thing, because that's the thing you need in life. If you've got mindfulness there, there'll hardly be any need to practice samadhi. It's the mindfulness we lack. There's the mindfulness that holds the mind from jumping about. On the other hand, if you've got the mindfulness there, the samadhi is easy anyway. So it works both ways. One thing you can try doing sometimes is to review oneself. To think about, well, at this moment, what do I know? And you can look at the body and you can think, well, there are feelings there, and I know these feelings here. There's sounds coming in, there's maybe smell, maybe taste, whatever it is. And then you can say, well, where does all this knowledge go into? This all goes in somewhere, and then you can sort of search, where is the centre of it? And to look in yourself and find it. It's more a matter of trying to get down to one's present situation, right now. And try to do it right now, you see.
There's a difference between having one's eyes open and having one's eyes closed, because when they do these EEG tests, the brain waves are different in the two cases. Can you comment on that in practice?
As far as brain waves are concerned, I can't say much about it.
You can feel the difference of having one's eyes open.
I mean, it wouldn't matter if you had your eyes open. The only thing is that they're immediately open to more distractions. Anything that happens to cross is immediately a distraction. And the thing is, that's feeding data into the mind all the time. Whatever's fed in, there's a tendency to grab hold of it. If you keep the eyes closed, that tendency is cut out.
But there's just as much going in through the ears and the body as there is going in through the eyes. Perhaps even more.
The ears you can't stop, nor the body. But the thing is that the eyes are very important, because sight is the, apart from feeling, sight is the most important sense of God. Don't have any doubt about it. Feeling is the most important, but sight is number two. And to figure out whatever comes into the eyes has quite a big effect. Sound is also difficult, but there's little you can do about it. With your eyes, you can shut them to shut your ears, and usually very effective.
I suppose you can put ear pads on.
You can. I tried it. It doesn't work very well. The thing is, when you do that, the ears become more sensitive, and you can still hear. It's not much use.
Regarding ears, I seem to have the karma to have loud neighbors speak. And it's something which now I know in the past I can see I get terribly worked up. I get terribly angry and furious, and I can almost go then. And I tried to find a way how to because I can't see it. I mean, these ones are as loud as the people speak.
Well,
but
think of the senses like this, with hearing. What actually is there out in the world as far as hearing goes? There's mechanical vibration in the air. That's all it is. Now that's not sound. That's just mechanical vibration, that's all. When it gets into your ear, it's still vibration until it gets into the cold chair. Then it does. You get resonance in the cold chair, and those hairs vibrate there. And then it turns into nervous impulses, which go into the brain. And then the brain sort of somehow sorts this out. And then we hear sound. Now what's out there isn't sound. So the sound's all in oneself. And the thing is to, if you like, turn and try and see that sound as being in yourself. Realise that it is in yourself. The idea of the space that the sound's in is also in oneself. The direction is within oneself. The same thing applies to seeing, of course. In fact, all the senses work in the same way.
Yes, I tried to find a way of investigating that chain or these kind of three things which come together to make hearing possible.
Yes.
Somehow I felt like.
Well, the thing is, the external stimulus is a purely mechanical process. And the end result of the mechanical process is the vibration in the cold chair. And that's purely mechanical vibration. That's not sound. Sound is something strange that's within us. We create the sound. Much in the same way as we create light and colour. There's no colour out. All light out there.
It's sanya.
It's all created. I mean, what there is out there is radiation. Electromagnetic radiation, if science is correct.
Yes, I can see this in my mind, but in the experience I can't see it. That's
yes, what you have to do is then to try and make yourself realise this. It's a sort of going over it. I found it very effective to go over the theory, what happens, step by step, and then trying to see it in oneself. And then it won't, so you just go over it again. What going over it does is to bring confidence in in what one's doing. And that confidence then leads on more and more in it. You find in the end that the sensations are all coming, this is the root of it. It's a method, you can try it.
Yes.
One more method is grin and bear it, of course.
I think it's a matter of interpretation that counts, because she's very smart to differentiate between the sounds of the chickens and the sounds of the people.
Yes. That definitely comes in the mind, because they could be quiet. They just
I don't know to take it up, but it's just chickens.
Just that didn't work.
Imagine these big birds over there yakking away.
That didn't work.
So it's so amazing how they're all cooking up, between Vinyan and Sanya and Sankhan, to cooking. Sankhan is the wooden thing. It's how smart you are to cooking out Sanya with.
It is, that's what happens. It's really, what matters is all created inside. The whole thing.
See, the roosters are the ones that get me right in the back of my neck. Sitting here nice and calm. Right above my head. And if he's there for a while, he souls out, but that first one...
It seems sometimes as though the practice brings the roosters as well.
They like it, I think. They like it.
Can be.
What do you mean, brings the roosters?
Well, it has an effect on them. It makes them make a noise. You often find if you do practice that the roosters come closer and they start making a noise. The practice gets
it probably makes them happy. I mean, anytime you're around someone in samadhi, there's this happy feeling.
I was walking and there was one of these lizards with its head stuck out of a hole, you see. And as I walked past, and when I looked at it, it went down again because it can see your eyes, I think. And so, well, it seemed to anyway. But then
they get a bit scared.
Just the moving.
But if I didn't think anything, it just stayed there as I walked past. But on one occasion, I said, suppose I put my hand out and grab it by the neck, you see, and I only thought it. I didn't actually do anything. It went straight down into the hole. So I don't know that thought goes. It's the lizard can
could be your Jitta talks.
It would be nice if it would work like that. Then we could call the lizard as well with just a phone. It doesn't need to be afraid.
But I mention it because it does seem that what one thinks does have some sort of an effect on what happens around.
Yes, it does. Yes. No doubt about that. It's okay.
But not always the result from one.
No, this is the trouble. It's not. No.
Well, I was laughing about you and Kathy. You had the complete opposite situation here. When Kathy came in, she's kind of loud and carefree, and she just, everyone should just take it easy, sort of thing. I mean, she's good, serious meditator and everything. And she was having everybody tell her to be quiet. She wanted to do puja. She was doing chanting by herself. And the Thai woman told her she shouldn't do chanting because it bothered everyone. And here you come and you want everyone to be quiet. And everybody's thinking that's Kathy. And I'm thinking, it's got to be karma. I mean, it's like...
I definitely have to look at it. Then let's get that problem. I want to fall.
Come back here in person. People create their future. They create what they come to. Usually it's something they don't want to. But the way they're creating, they don't want that. In order not to want it, they've got to think about it.
Is it not the practice to try not to create anything in the future?
Well, that's for the arrogant.
Because there's the talk about the asavas, karmasava, pavasava, every chasana.
Yeah.
Especially pavasava seems to be creating the future.
Yeah. Bhava means the realm where one goes to. That's what creates that realm. Realm of existence. And one creates it, and one goes to it.
But we are trying to control greed and hate and various other kilesas, of which karmasava perhaps is a representative. Isn't pavasava also something which we try to deal with?
Yes, but most of the kilesas concerned with bhavasava come under the heavy heading of moha, illusion. And this is where the Pañña is necessary. And if one can develop the Pañña, if one has enough mindfulness to develop the Pañña directly, so one gets. Most people haven't though. They start doing it and they go off in a wild goose chase all over the place. And mind won't keep on it. And one's got to do quite a lot of research in oneself as to what exactly bhava means, in what way it's bhava. And I mean, well, this is bhava here. This is a realm of becoming, a realm of existence. There are these different realms of existence, and there are different levels. There's the human realms, there's the deva realms, there's all the rest of them, up and down. But these are really realms of mind. In fact, if you look in the Abhidhamma there, you've got the different levels of consciousness and the different realms of existence, and they all equate them. So the realm one goes to will depend on the level of mind if it's a death at that time. It will depend on the realm on the state of mind. If the state of mind is good, it will be a good realm. If it's bad, it will be a bad realm. It's the way it works. One creates it oneself, the whole thing.
Even in this life, one had some sort of image as to what the rest of one's life is going to be like, even though it doesn't actually turn out that way.
Yeah.
And that seems to me something to get rid of.
I don't know, I don't think one can do it. It's too automatic. The only thing one can do is to just develop the wisdom steadily. And I mean, this is rather like trying to give up things. Mostly you can't give up things, because you don't know where your attachments are. All one can do is to go on with the practice and develop the wisdom. When the wisdom gets far enough, the understanding comes, there's no need to give up things, they're given up automatically. It's seen through.
So it's almost giving up, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not really, it isn't even a giving up, it's just as though we're thinking, oh, I've changed, I no longer want that, or I no longer see it like that, it's just something's changed inside. There's not so much a giving up, but the thing no longer is a problem. This isn't significant any longer. That's the way the breaking of attachment comes when it's correct. If you try to give up something, okay, even if you succeed, you grab something else. Insofar as Bhava is concerned, probably the best way is to contemplate the nature of this Bhava, this existence in which we are. See its nature, see how people are in this world, see their nature, see the falsity of it. How much of discontent there is, how much of conceit there is in it, how much of wrong belief there is in this world. You can see it everywhere. Everywhere you look. Look at any newspaper, you can see it sticking out all over the place. Advertisements, you can see it in those too. A whole lot you can see. And seeing that, until one gets a sort of more or less a disgust of it, I don't want to come back to this lot again. Then one's beginning to shake free. Now, one of the troubles is that we don't see what our situation is and how strong those kilesas are. They're very strong. And they attach us to this situation so strongly.
We just realize that whatever we try to attach to a situation that creates vata again, I mean, it's really scaring.
It is, yes. Vata is around samsara. Vata is wheel of people. Yes, one can see one's making karma the whole time. And one can't just stop making it like that. There's no way. But the thing one can do is to try to make sure that it's good karma, not bad. To avoid the bad karma as much as one can. Can't cut it off. With regard to the chickens. The thing to see is that the karma tends to repeat itself. If one has anger coming up, what is the anger? What's it for? When the chickens make a noise, taking this as an instance anyway, it's not the only one, then there's a feeling of unpleasant feeling inside. That feeling is a result of past karma. All feelings resulting. When that feeling comes up, one doesn't like it. So there's wanting to stop that feeling. So up comes, I don't like. But the I don't like and the thinking about that is new karma.